Alright, we're continuing through the questions from the EOCT study guide. We're going to look at questions 11 through 20 in this section here. So, number 11 says, which equation is equivalent to 4n equals 2 parentheses t minus 3 when solved for t? Again, when it says solve for t, that means they want to get t by itself. You can kind of notice that from our answer choices here. So, when I go ahead, let me just rewrite here, maybe a little bit easier to see. Right? There's different steps you can take to do this. Kind of the most common way that you guys have been doing it in class is to go ahead and distribute here, the 2, to get rid of the parentheses, and that's perfectly fine. You could also, just to talk about it real quick, you could also divide both sides by 2 for your first step. But we'll go ahead and distribute, since that's what so many of you guys have been doing. 2 times t is 2t. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. So minus 6 equals 4n. Again, there's an n over here. We're just treat it like a number. The t is what we're trying to get by itself. Okay, so start away from the t. I want to get rid of the minus 6 first, so I add 6 to both sides. You got 4n plus 6 equals 2t. Now it's 2 times t, right? So the inverse or the opposite of multiply is divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. Right, now remember, it's the entire side by 2, okay? It cancels over here, so I've got t equals, which is what I want. Now on this side, I'm dividing both pieces by t, and 4 and 6 can both divide by 2, so we can simplify this a little bit further. 4n divided by 2 is 2n. 6 divided by 2 is 3, so plus 3, 2n plus 3. And I look over at my answer choices and I actually don't see it, but if I go actually up one step, right, I see this right here, right, was C. So I actually didn't need to take it to that next step, right, but either one is equivalent, right, and this is the choice we have, so good. Hopefully that helps there. Next one here. Number 12. Which equation is equivalent? We've seen several of these. Which equation is equivalent? So hopefully you're reviewing and ready to solve some equations. Which equation is equivalent to 6 parentheses x plus 4 equals 2 parentheses y plus 5 when solved for y? Okay, again, when solved for y, so we want to get y by itself. Right? First thing you might do, again, just like the last one if you want, is to get rid of all the parentheses. So I'm going to distribute the 6 through. 6 times x is 6x. 6 times 4 is 24. Equals 2 times y is 2y. 2 times 5 is 10. Right? Now I don't have any parentheses. Again, solving for y, trying to get the y by itself. So I start away from it, right, on that same side. So I'm going to get rid of the 10. Opposite of plus 10, or inverse of it, is minus 10. So I've got 6x. 24 minus 10 is 14, equals 2y. Right? Similar to the last problem, 2y 2 times, so I'm going to divide by 2. Get y. Over here again, I have to divide everything by 2. So 6x divided by 2 is 3x. 14 divided by 2 is 7. So I've got 3x plus 7 equals my y, and I see again, it is C. Right? It is C. So, good. Questions? No. Alright. I don't know why I'm asking the camera questions. Never mind. Alright, 13. This equation can be used to find h, the number of hours it takes Flo and Brian to mow their lawn. I've got h over 3 plus h over 6 equals 1. How many hours will it take them? All right. Again, we have an equation here and we can solve, but I'm going to, just for a different strategy here, and kind of talk about something different. But if you decided to solve the equation, remember when you're adding fractions that you need a common denominator. I'd try to change that 6 or that 3 to a 6 by multiplying by 2 on the top and the bottom. Adding together and solving there. But I'm going to try something different just for sake of working through a different process. since it's multiple choice, right, we can also talk about how you can plug in to check, all right? So I'm going to actually plug my answers in, right, for H, right? That's my kind of my input, my X, my domain, right? Plug that in there and then see which one gives me 1. So first one I would have, if I'm trying A, would be 6, right? I'm plugging in 6. 6 over 3 plus 6 over 6. We want to see what that equals, and if it's correct, it'll equal 1. Well, 6 divided by 3 is 2, and 6 divided by 6 is 1, so 2 plus 1 is 3. So it's not A. Right? So then we try the next one. B, 3 over 3 plus 3 over 6. Well, 3 over 3 is 1. 3 over 6 is 1/2. So you get, 1 and 1/2 when you add those, and we want it equal to 1, so it's not B. Try C. We've got 2 over 3 plus 2 over 6. Okay? 2 over 6 actually reduces to 1 over 3. I'll remind you, again, you have a calculator, right? You can use a calculator, so if you're not great with fractions, in this case where you're plugging in, you could be using your calculator to do this and change things to decimals, that's fine. We get, so now we have 2 over 3 plus 1/3. When you add fractions, they have a common denominator, so I add the tops. 2 plus 1 is 3. We got 3 over 3, which is 1, right? And that's what we wanted it equal to, 1, so our answer here is C, right? So, different kind of strategies. You can solve equations, but you can also sometimes, use your answers when it's multiple choice, right, and kind of plug in. So just kind of showing a different strategy there. All right, 14.
Miss Weathers, if you're in the building, please give me a call. I have someone wanting to know the price of your
ferry
bus.
boat carries passengers back and forth between 2 communities
Thank you.
on the Peachville River. It takes 30 minutes longer for the ferry to make the trip upstream than downstream. The ferry's average speed in still water is 15 miles per hour. The river's current is usually 5 miles per hour. Sorry about that. This equation can be used to determine how many miles apart the 2 communities are. M over 15 minus 5 equals M over 15 plus 5 plus 0.5. What is M, the distance between the communities? All right, so like the last one, a couple strategies you can use. You could plug in your answers, right, and see which one works out correctly. Or you can solve the equation. So in this case, since the last one I used the plug-in strategy, this one I'll go ahead and solve it to show that here. A couple things I'm going to see though right away. I can simplify this a little bit, right? 15 minus 5 and 15 plus 5, we can simplify that. Those are like terms. So we should have M over 20, or excuse me, M over 10, right, equals M over 20 plus 0.05. They want to know what M is. So in other words, we're solving for M, so we need to try to kind of get all our M's together. So I'm going to add this set piece over to this side. Or move this over to the other side, and actually to do that I need to subtract it, right? So I subtract M over 20, subtract M over 20. Now I'm subtracting, this cancels here, but I'm subtracting fractions, right? So I need a common denominator. So I need to change this 10 to a 20, and I'm going to do that by multiplying by 2 in the top and the bottom. So now you have, kind of write it side by side, 2M over 20 minus M over 20. Okay? Well, 2M minus M is M. You keep the same denominator, right? And what was this supposed to be equal to, right? Don't forget this part. It was equal to 0.5. I don't know, my decimal's in the wrong place. Sorry about this. 0.5. All right. I want to get the M by itself, so that means I need to get rid of the divide by 20. The inverse of dividing is to multiply. So I multiply by 20 on this side, it cancels, and multiply by 20 here. So 0.5 times 20, you can grab your calculator, but that's 0.5 is a half. Half of 20 is 10. Do I have that as a choice? Yes. 10 miles. Right? 10 miles is the distance between the communities. And again, you would have got that same answer if you would have plugged 10 in for the m's, right, that's where it would have came out equal to each other. All right. On to question 15. Which expression represents all values of x for which the inequality 2 over 3 plus x over 3 is greater than 1 is true? Okay, and so again, this time we're solving not a equation but an inequality. And remember the rules for solving an inequality are all the same as an equation, except for one rule you have to follow. If you are multiplying or dividing by a negative, you have to kind of flip the inequality around, right? So let's go ahead and kind of work through solving this and see what we come up with. All right, first off, okay, we're adding fractions. They have a common denominator, so I'm going to kind of put those together. I've got 2 plus x. They're not like terms, so it doesn't become 2x or anything like that. Over 3 is greater than 1. Okay. I don't really like the fraction, so I'm going to try to get rid of that. To get rid of dividing by 3, I'm going to multiply by 3 on both sides. So now I have 2 plus x is greater than 3. And now we want to get rid of this 2. So to get rid of the 2, I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides, and I get x is greater than 3 minus 2 is 1. And so my answer choice is B. So again, same steps as if, it had been an equal sign in an equation, right? Nothing was different. Just watching out for that rule. If I'm multiplying or dividing by a negative, I'll switch that sign.